the College Football Playoff has announced, because we only have 2 years that they have guaranteed a 12-team format, but for 2 years, the 2024 season, the 2025 season, we've got dates. We know exactly when and where some of these college football playoff games are going to be in the expanded 12-team format. So we'll begin just with the general, like right off the bat. We've got a first round on campus confirmed. That is, in my opinion, great. In 2024, that will be December 20th, one game on Friday evening. Then there will be 3 games in 3 different slates, a early afternoon, late afternoon, and evening on Saturday, December 21st. For those trying to keep track of the schedule in your mind, that is a traditional like opening weekend of bowl season type date on the calendar. So you're already used to being locked in, except instead of the Jimmy Kimmel Los Angeles Bowl, it's going to be a college football playoff game with entry into the quarterfinals. The quarterfinals, they will be on New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. One game on New Year's Eve, that will be the Fiesta Bowl in 2024. 3 games on New Year's Day, Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl in the early afternoon, Rose Bowl in the late afternoon, Sugar Bowl as the primetime game. Then, and this is a point that I know that we discussed, I hope it was on air, but if not, at least we get some resolution. Tuesday, Wednesday? Nah. Thursday and Friday. The semifinals, Thursday night, January 9th, that will be at the Orange Bowl. Friday, January 10th, that will be at the Cotton Bowl. Then the national championship, January 20th. So 7 to 10 days later than we would have had for the national championship. Just sort of initial thoughts on what we have. Again, a Friday and a Saturday for the first round, a Tuesday and Wednesday for the quarterfinals. But again, it's New Year's Eve, New Year's Day. Thursday and Friday for the semifinals, and then the classic Monday national championship game. What do we make of the college football playoff 12-team schedule?
I don't seem to mind it that much. I mean, it's a lot of football. I understand you have to, not have to, but are choosing to seed to the NFL on that second weekend a little bit. But I mean, if you're telling me that I get to watch high-level college football Thursday, Friday, I get NFL wildcard weekend Saturday, Sunday, and then I get more really high-level college football on Monday, I mean, dude, sign me up. You know who's really happy about this? Urologists, because that's going to be a great weekend for them to do vasectomy. So normally we just have March Madness is like the most popular weekend, and then like the Masters and whatnot. Like that's going to be an extremely popular weekend right there to do it. So, man, I don't hate it. I know people will find things to complain about. Danny, do you hate it?
No, I love it. So I what you just said is the thing I've noticed. People that pushed back against expansion or 12-team playoff are just going to complain, right? They're going to, I can't believe this is what's going to happen. You know what? Like they're just going to find something to complain about. I love it because one, you protect Army Navy, still standalone. Like I like that. I think it's a rivalry that matters. You still have that week in between, and if we are worried about player safety, that extra week for a team, you know, coming off a championship game or not, it just gives them extra time to recover their bodies, to get back to full speed. And I think it leads to better football on the field. And I think there was really some confusion because in Ross Dellinger's early report, like the first one that came out, it said, you know, they're looking at midweek. And I interpreted that as Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday. You know, Tuesday, Wednesday was kind of midweek in my mind. I'm like, wait a second, is that possibly going to be it? I think there was some confusion on that. People were really upset. Well, if New Year's Eve and New Year's Day are midweek, who cares? That's a college football holiday. So like that's not a big deal. And then the Thursday, Friday, like what else do you want to do? Do you want to put it against the NFL wildcard weekend? No, like that would devastate the ratings. And just if you're a sports fan, like what Bud said, you were going to have 4 days wall to wall of incredible football, both college and NFL. So I think it's perfect. And then, you know, the last thing is I get people that would say, can we just play our championship game on Saturday? What I get that complaint, but again, it goes back to the NFL. Like, do you want to go up against them? And I would say no. Like, I want to be able to take it all in. I mean, that's been a kind of idealist, you know, old school line of thinking, which I appreciate. if it was feasible, if we could choose, yeah, I'd love to have it on a Saturday, but it's not. It's on a Monday, and it's been that way,
How long?
for a long time. So why are we complaining about it? It's worked out fine, and I think it will continue to do so.
Yeah, Monday championship game, not only in college football, but also in college basketball, has been going on for decades, right?
Yeah.
And I don't have the exact stats to back that up, but all of my memories of watching national championship games in college football and college basketball have been Monday night title games. If you want to preserve that, then I definitely understand. And maybe that was with the NFL in mind off the jump. The thing that stands out to me, and it didn't click until I started to think about whether it was Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday, Friday, because I said, if I was in the room, I would look at all of the semifinals that we've had. And this year was the anomaly because most of them have been bad games. Like if you were going to take any part of this playoff and not bury it, but put it in a less than ideal time slot, then maybe it is these semifinals based on the way we've had it. I think the quarterfinals around New Year's Eve and New Year's Day is genius because that's what people are excited about. Like that is going to be the fans that are coming into this and really fired up about a college football playoff, about a bracket that they can look at, about the idea of upsets. The quarterfinals are going to be the most exciting round of this. On campus, first round is going to be great, but we're not going to have the top 4 ranked conference champions. Then we get the winners from the on-campus week. We get them in. The fact that they are going to take the quarterfinals, sort of my prediction from seeing all of this come together, especially with the way that they've laid out the schedule, is that when you put those 4 games, the one game on Friday, the triple header on, not Friday, but the one game on New Year's Eve, the triple header on New Year's Day, or however they end up breaking it up, the most exciting part of the 12-team playoff, I think, is going to be the quarterfinals, just because it's going to be the closest thing that we get to the opening weekend of the NCAA tournament. And people talk about the opening weekend of the NCAA tournament like it's one of the greatest sports events in American sports. And so I think that it was a smart move in all the different ways that they could lay out the calendar, that they said, okay, New Year's Eve and New Year's Day, that's a college football time. What is going to be the best product that we can put out there? And it's going to be that quarterfinals round. So I'm fired up looking at it right now.
One thing that I think is going to be awkward the first weekend, which I think is going to be insane. A couple things about the first weekend. One, December 20th, 21st, getting late. It's getting cold. What are those teams that potentially do have a home game? Do they choose to play, if it's a Big Ten team, do they choose to play it at their home stadium, or do they want to go to one of the indoor venues? That option has been put forth. They can choose to go inside, which would go against everything that every Big Ten fan has, cried about and complained about to the SEC, saying, you guys never play in cold weather. You never come up here. And then you could have that opportunity, but you'd want to play it indoors. That to me would be a really awkward situation. I hope the teams select, hey, I want to play at our home crowd. Like, let's get our crowd there. Let's use the weather to our advantage. The other thing is during that, December 20th, 21st, is the Idaho Potato Bowl and the Boca Raton Bowl, are those going on at the same time? Because that is when those early bowls take place, they're going to get buried. I mean, maybe they're lead-in games. But that to me is still, and we see it now in the 14 playoff, we see other games taking place the same day. I don't love that optically because I think it takes away from the big ones. I guess those will kind of be like undercard fights, I guess. But those were just a couple of dynamics of the first round I thought were interesting.
Well, to follow up on that, on Saturday, there's no other windows. They're going to have a 12, they're going to have a 4, and they're going to have an 8.
Right.
The only thing that they're going to do, and I believe that, ESPN still has all the rights here, and ESPN has the rights to all those bowl games. Like, are they really going to throw one of them on ESPN too? Like, are they going to try? Aren't they going to want to try to have some sort of mega cast opportunities? That's an interesting thought in terms of, what happens to that opening weekend of bowl games. Is it lost at this point? That's something that those bowl games, and obviously the ESPN, what's that other arm that they've called? It was like ESPN Events, right? Danny,
yeah.
Okay, right? It's another company that owns the bowls, but
you know what they might do is just move those, a couple days earlier. So then you own the whole, you're talking about owning the calendar. They love owning bowl season. Just move it to another date, 2 or 3 days. Not that big of a deal.
I do see some chatter in the chat Dart Jane has said, I don't want to stay up till 11 when I have to be up at 4:45 in the morning to watch the Natty. And to that, I would say, I mean, we had the late game in softball last night, right? Went to the bar that sponsors us afterwards. What time does NBA playoff games end? Do we think it's hurting the ratings for that? Like, if you love college football, you can stay up till 11 o'clock to watch the national championship game and be a little bit tired at work on Tuesday. I don't think the Monday aspect is really killing the ratings on this that bad, personally. Also, what about West Coast fans, right? Like, if you're going to have it on a Monday, you need to have it a little bit later on a Monday because people actually are at work, and most of us can't dip out on a Monday at work and take a half day, I would think. So I don't know. It's just kind of there's point counterpoint you got to deal with.
But do you think we're going to have Big Ten teams want to go home field in inclement weather?
This is the one thing I will say, like, the days to me that doesn't really matter. I do think that you need to play those early games in your home field, right? Like, that is, we talk about like what makes college football college. And we get a lot of this misleading narrative. Like, hey, oh, well, if they become employees, they could be cut. Well, Deion's cutting 80% of his roster. Like that stuff is kind of straw man nonsense. I do think the pageantry of it, the ability to showcase your stadium, right, and have that experience on the campus to which you have a connection, right? People didn't go to school at the Meadowlands. People didn't go to school with the New York Jets or the Giants, right? Now, they may have grown up going to some of these games with their families and whatnot, but their traditions are not quite the same as what we have in college. Like, that's the stuff I worry about losing. Is Chip okay, or is he frozen? Is he really, really scared? Danny, are you seeing this? Chip,
you caught me for a second because I didn't know if he was frozen or not.
Blink if you're safe. I think Chip might be.
Or he's got a really good
this is
poker
great.
face.
What we should rank top 5 things we think Chip just saw.
Yes.
All right. Did Jordan upload the wrong clip in the private chat? No. All right. So I mean, look, I want to go to Madison and have them do jump around during a playoff game. If Penn State gets a playoff game, you bet your ass they're whiting that thing out, right? I mean, yeah. That's automatic whiteout protocol, I think, if you're Penn State. If Washington makes it, like, I want to see ESPN's cameras fly the drones over all the sailgating. Like just the stuff that makes this sport unique and not homogenized is the stuff that I'm worried about protecting. And
I think one of the things, Bud, that they're, potentially worried about. I mean, most NFL stadiums are used to playing December, January even, and they've got the infrastructure of like heated fields, where you don't get the frozen tundra, which was an issue back in Green Bay back in the day when you had these freezing cold atmospheres, and it was really almost like a block of ice that you were playing on. So I think that's probably, but you know what I would say to that? Why don't you start prepping? Why don't you put in a heated field if you're Michigan, Ohio State, Wisconsin, all these teams, because you've got all this money. We're always looking for ways to spend it. I would go ahead and get out in front of that one so that you don't have to. And you got a year and a half, 2 years, you got plenty of time to get that infrastructure put in there. I would say, hey, get out in front of it. And like, to me, I was genuinely like kind of shocked at the even thought of, hey, let's put this at a neutral site. Indianapolis was even proposed, Detroit for Michigan. I think you'd be crazy. I think if you were the athletic director or the school president or whoever was in charge of making this decision, I would guess you'd see your fans revolt. Like, what are we doing? We want to come see a game there. Now, travel, I think, was something that's easier to travel to bigger cities, but I'd be genuinely curious. I think the fans would say, we want to go. We don't care. We'll sit outside in the cold. We want to experience that and have that to our advantage.
I tend to agree with you there. The only thing that doesn't shock me about this, the fact that they're even considering it, is look at all the control the Bulls had and the people who run the Bulls had over the sport for a long time. Now, we're having the Fiesta Summit this week, as opposed to what they used to call it, which was the Fiesta Frolic, because obviously, if you read Dan Wetzel's book, we saw what kind of went on at the Fiesta Frolic. So the people that are connected to these neutral sites are, in many cases, the same people that run a lot of these big time bowls, and they may just be throwing big time money around, So I don't know. It doesn't shock me, but it does disappoint me, right? a little bit.
Mhm.